You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account, from Nvidia to VIX and everything in between. If it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, that music means it is time once again for your Hot Options Report coming at you for Tuesday, October 14th. Hope you're having a good trading day and indeed a good trading week out there. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Reminding you, hey, if you're listening to this, make sure you're subscribed to the full network wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And of course, if you're ready to go above and beyond, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. Check it out. You might like what you find. Now, if you're listening to this show, chances are that you're pretty serious about options trading. So let me put something on your radar. Public. It's the most cost-effective way to trade options. That's because Public is the only platform that gives you rebates on your options trades. They also have some of the industry's lowest index options fees, whether you're placing single leg or complex multi-leg trades. Every dollar counts. Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Again, the Hot Options Report brought to you by Public. Full disclosures in the podcast description. All right, let's see what we find now. Lighting up the options market and yet another wild day in the markets. Started off pretty red. Most of the major indexes looking pretty spooked to start the day. VIX cash really surging north out there, getting as high as nearly 23 before coming back to earth, settling a little bit north of 20 3/4, about 20.81 out there today, listeners. So a wild ride out there in the markets, as indeed in vol. VIX putting up 1 million contracts today. In fact, 1.0 million contracts exactly out there today. So a pretty spicy day in VIX land. The ADV is a little bit north of 750 000, so definitely blowing past that. And the hot option out there today, listeners, in VIX was 50,000 of the OC35s. Average price for these about 36 cents. Now, there is open interest on the strike, so someone could have gotten the heck out of Dodge on these. Either way, that's what was lighting up the tape out there in VIX land today. All right, moving on to SPY. You can probably expect it was a banger day in SPY out there, putting up 10.7 million contracts out there today against an ADV of just 8.7. So fully 2 million contracts piling on top out there today. SPY, after being down nearly 2% at one point, closing the day off just 0.13%, 662 and about a quarter is where SPY went out. So wild stuff out there today. A massive intraday rally coming in the second half, really lifting most of the markets to flat or close to flat on the day. Case of the Dow actually going green out there. And the hot option on a pretty hot day in SPY, 424,000 of the 665 calls. Average price for these, 64 cents. We did get there intraday. 665.82 was the high. So these had a brief shining moment in the sun. Hopefully you got the heck out of Dodge if you were long them before the close. As we keep on rolling out to SPX, listeners, you know it was a banger day in the SPX as well. Same deal. Selling off pretty hard in the morning, rallying, getting close to unched on the day, off about 0.16% to end the day. Putting up about 4 3/4 million contracts. That's against an ADV of about 4.35 million contracts. So coming in pretty heavy in the SPX as well. The S closing 66.44.31 today. And the hot option out there, 110,000 of the 6680s. It's an interesting strike. Average price for those, $3.18. And once again, that pretty much marks the high water mark for the day. Almost 66.81 was where the cash topped out today. So interesting level out there, 66.80s in the SPX today. As we keep on rolling out to small caps, Was it a banger day in small caps? You know it was, up 1.42%. If you're interested in small caps, check out the episode of the European Market Brief we just did, hitting the network pretty much as we speak. I get it, it's about Europe, but also a little hit on the Russell 2000 in there as well, putting up 2.42 million contracts against an ADV of 1.62, so fully 800,000 more contracts hitting the tape today. IWM closing 247.90 today. So a hot day out there. The hot option on a hot day, 104,000. Once again, going out to November downside. Nove 234 puts, average price for those, $2.86 out there in small caps. As we keep on rolling to the Qs, you know the answer by now. It was a banger out there. The Qs closing off 0.2%. So they were kind of the lone real dark spot on the day. And they were, of course, down more earlier in the session. Qs closing pretty much 598 exactly out there, putting up nearly 5.4 million contracts against an ADV of just 4.5. So a hot day out there. And the hot option on a hot day, 184,000. Of the par calls, the 600 calls, average price for these, $1.11. So again, they had a moment out there, listeners. Hopefully you took advantage of that moment if you were long them. Otherwise, if you rode them through the close, maybe not the best trade. As we keep on rolling, the question is always, when we see a lot of this macro action in the big indexes, does it translate into a lot of single name volume? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no. What side of that coin are we falling on today, listeners? The answer was no. It was decent, but it was not blow the doors off type of paper out there. 534 is what it cost you to break into the top 10. That gets us to our old pal Palantir, closing 179 and about 3/4, up about 260 today. Again, putting up 534,000 contracts for the number 10 spot. The hot option out there, 40,000 of the 185 calls, listeners. Average price for these bad boys, $1.71. We didn't quite get there intraday. 182 and about 1/3 was the high. So those 185s probably look a little bit better at that level, but we'll keep an eye on them. As we keep on rolling to number 9, is the fruit company Apple, 543,000 contracts on the tape. Apple gaining just about 1/4 today. So net, not a great day, but recovering some of their losses from earlier in the session. The hot option out there today, 37,000 of the 250s, the 2.5 calls. Average price for these, about $1.56. Got close today, 248.84 was the high before settling out right around 247 3/4. So we'll keep an eye on those 2.5s as well in Apple as we keep on rolling to number 8. Our old pal SoundHound AI making it into the top 10 for the first time in a while, coming in at number 8. 569 on the tape for them, closing $20.86, up about $1.75 or nearly 9%. The hot option out there, the October 21s, going up 71,000 times today. Average price for these, 61 cents. Those don't seem that crazy given where we went out and what this stock is prone to do. In fact, it got as high as about 21.5 today. So those were looking pretty good earlier today, listeners. What do you think? 21 by the end of the week. Can SoundHound get there? We'll keep an eye on it as we keep on rolling. With number 7, our old pal, the Wolf, but perhaps not the Wolf you were thinking of out there, listeners. No, not our old pal, Wolf Speed. It's actually the other Wolf, WULF, a.k.a. Terra Wolf. Wolf coming in $15.46, up about $1.50 or 10.5%, putting up 578,000 contracts for the number 7 spot. The hot option out there today, 43,000 of the OX17 calls. Average price for these, 23 cents. So they're not giving these away, listeners. Did get up to 16.19 today, though, so maybe that makes those sound a little bit more palatable. Are you rolling the bones on those, listeners? 23 cents, OX17s? Hit us up, let us know as we keep on rolling. Out to number 6, it's our old pal Mara. Wow. Rocketing to life here, 22.25, up about $2 exactly today, or nearly 10%. So another good run for them. 722,000 contracts hitting the tape out there in Mara. The hot option out there today, 65,000 of the 22 half calls. Average price for these, about 88 cents, listeners. So interesting. 22 halves by the end of the week. Pretty darn close. Merrick can do that pretty easily. Got as high as nearly 23 bucks earlier today. So we'll keep an eye on those as well as we keep on rolling to number 5, the Amazonians, 216.39. Giving up the ghost, off about $3.50 out there today, listeners, or about 1.6%. And the hot option out there today, it was to the downside, 210 puts, nearly 50,000 of those changing hands for about $1.09, listeners. So can we get down there? We got to 212.60 today, so those puts are obviously looking much better earlier in the session than they were towards the close. As we keep on rolling to number 4, Intel, also giving up the ghost a little bit today, closing 35.63, off about $1.50 or a little over 4%. Putting up 849,000 contracts today for the number 4 spot. The hot option out there, 31,000 of the Nove expiring on the 7th. So in the weeklies, 25 puts. That's an interesting one out there, listeners. Average price of these, 15 cents. This was opening. Looks like paper might have sold these, though. So drawing the line in the sand at the 25 strike, getting paid 15 cents to do that. I mean, Intel was $20 not that long ago, so you'd be through that strike. But on the flip side, I think right now a lot of people would certainly pick up some Intel for $25, given that it closed 35.63. So we'll keep an eye on those, listeners, as we keep on rolling. To number 3 spot, it's AMD, 218.09, up about $1.75, or almost a full percent out there today, putting up 979,000 contracts. For the number 3 spot, the hot option out there, 61,000 of the 230 calls. Average price for these, $2.60. If that sounds rich, they did get as high as nearly $2.25 today. So again, maybe that makes those a little bit more palatable as we keep on rolling to number 2. Good old Tesla, 429.25, giving up about $6.50, or about 1.5%, putting up 1.52 million contracts out there today. The hot option, 66,000 of the 420 puts. How appropriate for Tesla. Average price for these, $7.59. Again, we did get through that strike earlier this morning. 417.86 was the low. So again, maybe that makes those 420 puts sound a little bit more palatable as we keep on rolling to the number 1 spot. It's Nvidia, 180, pretty much exactly, giving up a little over $8, or about 4.33%. So giving up the ghost a little bit out there today. Nvidia putting up nearly 2.75 million contracts, and the hot option out there, 148,000 of the 185 calls. Average price for these, $2.12. That may sound rich, but we were flirting around with that earlier in the session. 184.80 was the high out there today. And that's going to do it for our hot options report for Tuesday, October 14th. See you back here tomorrow for your regularly scheduled programming, including Options Bootcamp, and to see you back after the closing bell, another episode of the Hot Options Report. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in podcast description.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.